Look who decided to show up. My dad scoffed, loud enough to silence the music and small talk in the room. All heads turned toward me. I hadn't even made it 3 steps into the hall when he reached for the gift box in my hands, beautifully wrapped, neatly tied, and hurled it into the trash can beside the cake table. "We don't need pity money," he growled. "You're just here to beg, aren't you? Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below." We read every comment. Let's begin. Everyone laughed. My sister, still in her white rehearsal dress, hid her giggle behind a champagne flute. My mom turned away, pretending not to see. I just stood there, still. Not a tear. Not a blink. Then I smiled. "Open the card before you choke on your cake," I said quietly. The room stilled again. My sister tilted her head, curious. My dad hesitated, and then, with an exaggerated grunt, he walked over to the trash, pulled the crushed box out, and tore the envelope from the top. He opened the card. He didn't even finish the first line before his face changed. Then, right on cue, the double doors of the venue opened and in walked my husband, Logan. Tall, clean-shaven, and calm as ever, dressed in a dark blue tailored suit, holding a second envelope in his hand. "Thought I'd drop this off myself," he said, placing it on the gift table, since the first one nearly ended up with the plastic cups. My dad's hands were trembling now. The original card was still open. He looked back at me like he was seeing a ghost. My sister stood up. "What's going on?" Her voice cracked. She sounded more panicked than annoyed. The energy in the room had shifted completely. I walked over slowly, heels clicking, picked up a champagne flute of my own, and stood beside the gift table. "That envelope," I said, pointing to the one my husband had just placed down, "holds a wedding present from us. Fully paid honeymoon. Private villa in Maui. Business class flights. All inclusive." Someone gasped behind me. "But," my sister began. "Oh," I added, "and the check in the card Dad just opened? That was for Mom. To help her pay off the mortgage. I figured you all needed the help." Suddenly, no one was laughing. My dad's face was sheet white. My mom stepped forward like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. But it was too late. This wasn't for applause. It wasn't for praise. It was closure. I set my glass down untouched. Turned to Logan, who simply offered his hand. I took it, and as we walked out of the hall in silence, I heard chairs scraping. A quiet, "Wait, Emily, please," from behind. But I didn't stop. Not once. They had already thrown me out once. I had only come back to return the favor, with interest. 3 years ago, I left that house with a duffel bag, a cracked phone, and a heart so shattered I could barely speak. I still remember that night. The rain hadn't even started yet when my dad stood in the driveway, holding the front door open like I was some burden he couldn't wait to be rid of. "You've done enough damage," he'd said. "You can leave now. Don't expect a single cent from us ever again." My sister, Melanie, leaned against the porch rail, arms crossed, smug. "You'll come crawling back. Don't worry, we'll pretend not to gloat when you do." And my mom? She stood by the window, looking everywhere, but at me. That was the night I finally realized the truth. I was never the daughter they wanted. Never the one they were proud to claim. I wasn't the perfect one getting a master's degree in fashion design, or the one engaged to a rich family son. I was just the other one. The inconvenience. And all because I said no. No to the arranged marriage they wanted to push me into. No to the family business that I was expected to take over without question. No to selling myself short. They called it betrayal. I called it survival. That night, I slept in the back of my old sedan outside a 24-hour diner. I still remember how the cold felt in my bones, and how warm the cashier's smile was when she handed me a coffee on the house. It was the first time in weeks someone had shown me kindness. That same night, I opened my cracked laptop and started the only thing I knew might keep me afloat, my jewelry shop. It was nothing then. Just a few listings. A few photos. Pieces I made by hand years ago that had sat untouched in a plastic container. But I had time. I had fire. I had nothing to lose. And 1 week later, someone placed their first custom order. Then another. And another. Within 6 months, I was filling out LLC paperwork. Within a year, I had 3 part-time assistants and was shipping to customers in 48 states. And right around that time, I met Logan. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He was the only person who looked at me and didn't see failure or baggage or the daughter who walked out. He saw potential. We met at a local small business expo. He had just sold his tech startup and was offering mentorship to women-owned companies. I didn't even want to go to the event. I was exhausted, behind on orders, and running on 2 hours of sleep, but I dragged myself there anyway. Sometimes fate doesn't knock. It whispers. He bought 3 necklaces from my display that day and asked how I managed to create something so detailed with limited tools. I told him the truth. I had no tools. I made these in the back seat of my car last year. He didn't blink, didn't flinch. He just said, "Then you're the most resourceful woman in this building." We married in private 8 months later. No invites. No drama. No family. I didn't send a single card. They had made their choice long before I made mine. But now it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the space they told me I'd never belong in. So when Melanie's bridal shower invite came in, sent by my aunt who still had the decency to treat me like a human being, I didn't plan to go. At first. But Logan was the one who looked at the card and said, "You should show up." "Why?" I asked. "So they can pretend I'm invisible again?" "No," he said, sliding the envelope back into my hand. "So they can see what invisible became." He was right, but I didn't go to boast. I went to give them the kindness they had never shown me, just so they could choke on their own cruelty. And when I stood there, watching my father tremble while reading that card, it wasn't pride I felt. It was peace. I had walked through fire, alone, and I came back wearing gold. The moment Logan and I stepped out into the parking lot, my phone lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July. 13 missed calls, 6 voicemails, 3 text messages. All from my mom. "Emily, please. Let's talk. Your father didn't mean it like that. Can we meet?" I didn't respond. Not yet. The silence would sting more than anything I could say. We got into the car. Logan reached for my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, lips tight. I didn't think I'd feel this calm. "You were never the problem," he said. "They just didn't know how to handle someone who outgrew them." Halfway down the highway, I glanced at the rearview mirror, not to look behind me, but to remind myself how far I'd come. And that was when my sister called. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Then came the text. "You could have just given the gift without trying to humiliate everyone." I let out a soft laugh. Logan raised an eyebrow. "She thinks I tried to humiliate them," I muttered. Unbelievable. But what came next made my stomach twist. The wedding venue just called. The deposit bounced. "Did you do something?" My blood turned to ice. "I didn't touch anything," I said slowly, handing Logan the phone. He read the text. His expression darkened. "She's fishing. Trying to find someone to blame." Another text buzzed in. "Please. If you still care at all, just call me. We're in a mess." I turned away from the screen. They didn't want me at that shower. They didn't want me at the wedding. They didn't want me in their lives. Until the money came out. Until they realized I had built something they couldn't control, couldn't take credit for, and definitely couldn't replicate. Now, suddenly, I mattered. Logan parked the car in front of our home. Modern, sunlit, peaceful. The kind of place I used to imagine back when I was sleeping in my car. I stood on the porch a moment before going in, letting the evening breeze calm the noise in my head. Then I turned to him. "What if I went back tomorrow?" "To the wedding?" he asked, surprised. "No," I said. "To the house. One last time." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Why?" "Because there's something they left in that attic. Something they kept from me for years. I never had the courage to ask about it." He studied me. "You don't owe them anything," I know, I said quietly. But this time, I'm not going as the girl who left in shame. I'm going as the woman who came back on her own terms. The next morning, I knocked on the same front door that had once been slammed in my face. My dad opened it. No yelling, no glare, just silence. He looked older, smaller, like someone who had spent the night unraveling every mistake he'd ever made. Emily, he breathed. I didn't expect. I'm not staying long, I said. Just want something from the attic. He blinked. What? Mom's old cedar chest. The one with the lock. You always said it was junk, but I think you knew better. He hesitated. That's not yours. I tilted my head. Then why did Mom write my name on the bottom of it in Sharpie when I was 11?
His jaw tightened.
Behind him, my mother stepped into view. Her eyes were puffy. I told him, she said softly. I told him we should have given it to you years ago.
Too late now, I said.
I'm just here to take what's mine. Then I'll be gone. For good. They didn't stop me. When I opened that chest, I found things I hadn't seen in years. Sketchbooks I thought had been thrown out, letters I'd written to myself, a journal from when I was 16. But tucked inside the lining was something else. A sealed envelope with my name. Inside, a check. From my grandmother. 10 years ago. Meant to fund the design school I was never allowed to attend. I froze. They kept this from me. All this time. I walked down the stairs slowly, envelope in hand, and handed it to my father without a word. He opened it, and when he saw the date, he paled. I didn't think you were ready, he muttered. No, I said. You didn't think I was worth investing in. And I walked out. This time I didn't look back. The morning of Melanie's wedding started with silence. No frantic messages. No apology calls. Not even a passive-aggressive text. After yesterday's visit, I figured they'd finally accepted it. That I wasn't coming to save them. But by noon, Logan's phone buzzed. He read the screen, then handed it to me without a word. Do you think she'll show? It was from Melanie. Sent to her wedding planner. Except she accidentally sent it to Logan. She had been venting, not reaching out. That alone told me everything. They still hadn't changed. They were just scared. And when fear fades, entitlement comes back. I gave the phone back, unbothered. But Logan said something I didn't expect. I think you should go. I blinked. To the wedding? Not for them. For you, he said. You walked through fire to get here, Emily. You don't need their recognition. But maybe it's time to let them see who you've become one last time. He was right.
So I didn't wear black.
Or show up in some power suit to make a statement. I wore soft gold. My hair simple. My heels low. Because I didn't need to scream to be heard anymore. We arrived just as the pre-ceremony photos were wrapping up. The garden was packed with relatives, vendors, and string lights that didn't quite distract from the tension floating in the air. People whispered when they saw me. Some stared. My father was off to the side, looking anywhere but at me. My mother stood near the bar, clutching a glass she hadn't sipped. Melanie? She froze in the middle of her bride entrance walk, fake laughing with her new in-laws. Emily, she said, blinking like she wasn't sure I was real. I nodded. I didn't expect, she began. I raised a hand. I'm not here to cause a scene. Just here to drop something off. I handed her a small envelope. Not sealed. No tricks. Inside was a copy of my grandmother's letter, the one that came with a check they'd hidden for a decade. I had scanned it the night before, just for this. Read it when you're alone, I said, then added calmly. You deserve to know what else they kept from you. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. I turned to walk away. But then the microphone crackled. My dad had stepped up to the small platform meant for toasts. I'd like to say a few words, he said, voice shaky. Guests murmured. Someone tried to stop him, but he raised his hand. I was wrong, he said. Not just as a father, but as a man who thought control was love. I threw away something priceless. Someone. The entire garden quieted. He looked toward me, then at Melanie, then down at the floor. My daughter built a life I didn't think was possible. I thought I was protecting her by pushing her the way I knew best. But I see now. I was afraid. Afraid that she'd do more than I ever did. He paused, swallowed hard. I'm sorry. He stepped down. No applause. No music. Just stunned silence. Melanie's face was unreadable. My mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. I walked up slowly.
I didn't take the mic.
I just turned to the crowd and said clearly, we all come from something. But sometimes we have to break away from what built us to build what we deserve. Then I turned back to Melanie. I hope your marriage is built on truth. Not pressure. Not image. Just love. She swallowed, nodded faintly. And I left. No drama. No shouting. Just peace. Because this time I was walking away, not running. Later that night, as Logan and I curled up on our back porch, watching the sunset turn the sky orange and soft pink, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not because they apologized. Not because I won. But because I no longer needed their approval to know my worth. I didn't build a life out of spite. I built it because I deserved to see what I was capable of without chains on my ankles. And for every girl who's ever been called a burden at her own sister's celebration, for every daughter told to sit down, shut up, or stay small, let this be proof. You don't have to scream to rise. You just have to keep going. Even when no one claps. Even when no one sees. Because one day they will. And by then you won't need them to.